So I'm expanding on a conversation that around with somebody, a friend around about the ascension timelines and what they look like and how we're going to experience it and who's going to make it and who isn't and all that sort of stuff. And one of the biggest things that you have to ask yourself, because we're all creators, right? And that's the programmer in me is really being, I think people call it radical responsibility, right? And really wants to be responsible for everything that I'm interacting with and the programming, the patterns, all that sort of thing, right? But I can't do that if I haven't expanded my field enough to um, to know that everyone else throughout the galaxy, even not just this planet, every other conscious being, and whether they existed millions of years ago or millions of years in the future, because we know everything's outside of time and space happening now. I have to ask myself if this is right, if this is correct, and everything presents itself as information, right? And I have a choice of how I get to interact with the information. If I say, oh, that's right, I believe that, and I've accepted the energy of it, even if I don't like it. This is the crazy thing. If I don't like it, but I go, oh shoot, look at that, that's what's happening, in vibrational acceptance of it playing out. And I have to say to myself, the question I have to say, again, to be this radical, responsible co-creator is that a timeline I want to be on? So, example, the splitting of the earth. We know that there's parallel realities out there. We know that um, that there's multiple versions of us having multiple experiences. It's just there's a lot of people that get caught up in this consensus reality, and we think that there's one earth and we're now going into the second earth. And what it is likely, because again, none of us know for sure, is it's likely they're experiencing through their universal feedback, through information, whether they've channeled it, whether they've heard it through someone else and they've agreed to it and it feels right. They've accepted that they themselves are going through a shift, and they're going to be shifting octaves of the earthly expression, because Gaia too, like us, has many dimensions within her. She's a huge consciousness, right? We are as well. Our soul has many octaves, many dimensions, many experiences, many lifetimes. Again, outside time and space, some physical ones, some non-physical. I mean, gosh, we've got um, mm, if we keep following, I'm going to say the phone tree, the umbrella and the umbrella and the umbrella, we go way out. We've got monads, we've got oversouls. We could trace ourselves right back to source, right? And so by that logic, right, we've lived every lifetime, right? And so there are going to be many earth experiences. But if you're getting information that there's some split happening or a flash of light or some, reckoning, whatever it is that you're getting and you're feeling, there's a mirror being held to you to look at that and go, okay, so what does this mean for my timeline? That's how I'm sensing it. It probably is likely it's your team saying, hey, you're going to go through this upgrade. You're going to be tapping into this next frequency of Gaia. Don't be scared. We've got this, right? But what you have to practice is not projecting on anybody else. This is your universal feedback. It's yours alone, right? There might be a whole bunch of people going through it at the same time. So there's a bit of a consensus with that we're all shifting, right? But it's not for us to decide who's going to make it and who isn't. And that's the part where we get a little bit caught up about is, again, it's not really our business, right? What frequency every soul, every, person who's expressing on the planet right now in this now moment, when they tap into their higher dimension of consciousness, or when they didn't. For all we know, because again, we're all there, we're all that universal mind anyways. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting for you, as I've said this before, right? So what we have to do is just take the feedback, go, okay, that's what's coming in, I'm feeling that, I'm really close to a shift, yay, right? And get excited about it, but without, this is the thing, is most people are saying that there's two timelines coming and there's a whole bunch of people stuck on the old timeline. That's putting your brothers and sisters in darkness, right? That's saying that they have to continue another cycle of the earth in, this lower dense dimension. And that's kind of like saying hell, right? We're going to heaven and they're staying in hell, right? Obviously that's an exaggerated, way to do it, because we're very nuanced, right? So if you've negotiated it, even where it's just a little bit of a, higher and lower kind of thing, right? Um, that's you in judgment still. And there's that whole back at the Adam and Eve, when we first made that call, we started distortions, right? And the trajectory from there went way off. We kept spinning in a distortion of wrong, of not right. They made a mistake, right? Not good, that kind of thing. So that distortion is still spinning in you. So you have to reconcile your energy, come right back to 0 point. You won't be putting anybody in anything in darkness or any not making it or anything if you can come back into your absolute balanced state, because that's active in you as well. I don't want their tops or their spheres spinning in any sort of distortion or incoherence or lower dimension, even. I'm not going to hold them there. So I'm not going to decide anyone else's life journey except my own. That's the only one. That's the only one I have a business to decide, right? This is the only being in this point of light, in this now moment, that I get to align to and make decisions around what timeline I'm in, right? And, like the whole Mandela effect, for instance, we all know, and, even the people that are asleep, right, whether they know anything about the Mandela effect or not, um, their timelines are also starting to converge, right? So that's we know that there's a lift happening when all those lower stories that have played out are all starting to come together. We're on our, if you think of, a journey as a Mobius strip, we're on our return to source, that 0 point in the middle. So we're all coming back, right? And we've got masculine and feminine as the we've got the positive charge and the negative charge, right? That's how we worked, right? That whole Mobius strip. But the Mobius strip, the distortions are collapsing, right? And they start coming back. Well, the crazy thing is, if you take that strip of paper that made the Mobius strip, right, and you turn it into a full circle, it looks like a circle, but it's got a bit of a spin. It's like an orbit, right? And it's no longer the distortions. It's no longer positive and negative. It's the same Mobius strip, though. That's the thing. So a lot of us are collapsing our, we'll call it the duality, the polarity, our sorting, the negative and positive, right? And then we're coming back. So those Mandela's timelines, those stories, are just coming back into wholeness where we can just see them all, right? But because those timelines don't need to keep going, right? We've pruned them. We're curating, right? And the more you expand and let go and expand, and you pull your currency back, right? Because you have to. We keep asking ourselves, do I really want to give my energy to this timeline, to this story, right? So and when I say, like the whole climate change stuff, right? I always have to say, is this a timeline I want to be on? Does it need my currency, right? Do I want to be on a timeline where Gaia is good? She's got this. We're safe, right? Of course. So I take actions and steps in my own life to the degree that I have choices available, right? But I will not give my currency to the fearful story, which again is one side of the Mobius strip, right? Where if I keep saying Guy is in trouble, there's a lot of fear and it's negative over there, right? And the people going, Guy has got this, they're positive, but they may be smaller. They're a smaller group, right? So we've got that distortion. So to bring it back, right? into your 0 point, you take your currency out of it, right? You come back, and again, now that propeller that was spinning off now is balanced, and we can be that whole circle again, full circle, right? We're coming back full circle. So, and I've talked about this in other videos, how stories start appearing full circle to us, right? When you're available, when you're spinning in that sort of a balanced rotation, you start getting a lot of closed loops. You start seeing other sides of things, and now they no longer have to be active in you, right? And when you start getting there, the wholeness, you don't sort anymore. You don't put anybody into, it's just not your business, right? And so that's the whole idea. We want to come back into our wholeness, our sphere, everyone else's, the consensus stuff going on. They're going to sort themselves back into their wholeness in divine order, in divine timing. And you have to trust their process. Because if I'm spinning I don't trust their process, there's something in me untrustworthy, because everything's mirrored, right? So you really do have to allow everyone else to be right in their reality for the creator. The creator put them there at this time doing exactly what they're doing as their divine order as well, right? So again, we can't give ourselves too big a seat at the table and saying my journey is the journey to be on. I'm on the ascension timeline and I'm choosing light and love and blah blah blah, and therefore they must be experiencing this and this, or they're just not going to make it, or blah blah blah. Again, and not to beat a dead horse, I talked about this in the last video, but these are important. These are important things, right? God doesn't make mistakes, and so hopefully I covered something in there. So we're coming right back into our 0 point, right? So these are just be available for it. And that radical responsibility is you saying every time, asking the question, if this is true, if that script that someone is saying or telling, what does my timeline look like if that is true? And is it in the highest for all, right? Or is it a service to self timeline? Because if I'm on a good timeline and they're not, that's a service to self timeline, right? So I don't want to be on that one. I want to be on one that everyone makes it, right? So so you have to take responsibility for all your scripts. Just see them, right? Bring them back. It's not hard, right? Here we are. And I don't know if you can see that pinky ring. That's the ring that popped out of the air for me, the copper 5-pointed star that just dropped out of the air. So yeah. Ooh. Okay. Sending you lots of love, and you've got this. Send yourself compassion and forgiveness for, it's the old "forgive me, Father, for I know not what I do," and do the same for everyone else, right? So, and because that's how the mirror will show up there for you, right? It's going to show you again where you are playing small, where you are playing too big, right? Where you are, it's all based on values. That's the thing. That propeller, when we go into a distortion, it's because you have overvalued something. And that's the service to self peace is your values, right? It's where you have made gods, right, out of certain practices, certain gifts, certain expressions, certain lifestyles, certain wisdom, right, certain people, whatever it is, right? That's again, it shows up in the values, and it becomes overly active in our fields because we're giving it extra currency, we're putting it on a pedestal. But we know the gurus are falling, right? And they have to. Everything that we gave too much value to, it can't sustain it. The more the balance, we've got an energetic pressure of 0 point coming in, and it's forcing a lot of things up to the surface that can't be held because they were too far in distortion. So all the distortions are being forced up. So don't judge what's showing up in the collective right now. This is people call it revelations, but it's your revelations, right? Don't decide it's their revelations and they have to go to jail for something that they did. These are your revelations, right? Why did my soul code that script or that story in to be shown in that way to me at this now moment? That's your radical responsibility. That's how you get to reflect on what's showing up in the outer world. Why did my script play it in that way for me to see it in that way, right? Oh, look at we're getting a lot of cleansing of your filters here, your veils. Holy smokes, there's some beautiful big clearing. Yeah, I'm just hopeful I don't whack my microphone, but yeah, it's right at the heart too. That's very interesting. Lots of cleansing and purification. Ooh, yeah, just radical responsibility in what timeline am I on, if that is true. Why did my soul script it to be shown to me in that exact way? What is it about that story where my personality wants to weigh in a certain way? What's the opposite? Can I call in it's the opposite of it to balance it? Can I be the drone here? Can I get out of my personality in this now moment, in this story, in this script, and be 0 point and see both sides and seeing the value that both sides add to the collective experience? Because it does. Everything has value. Everything, you chose it. You chose to experience it. It served you. It served your growth. It served humanity's growth, right? It served the collective growth, whether we can see it or not. But hopefully we can see it. And if you can't see it, ask your team. Ask Jesus for the forgiveness, for the compassion. Kuan Yin's beautiful for compassion. You can call in the Divine Mother and all her emissaries to fill you with love and compassion for all those areas in your field where you have a hard time with, that you haven't accepted, that you've judged, and where they're showing up in mirrors where you're still judging in others. Because often what you're judging, always what you're judging in another is something that you haven't accepted, that you also have in yourself. And that's the thing. So it's really getting loud in the outer world, right? Egos are really getting loud in the outer world until you actually acknowledge on a small level that code is also active in you. Nobody gets a pass there, right? You might not be expressing it to the degree that someone else is, but you can actually look at them and thank them. And this is how you come back to 0 point, is you can say thank you for the service you're doing for humanity to play out your script in such an exaggerated way so that we now know what it is we need to work on to bring back into balance within myself, right? Because that soul, as I've said before, they're taking one for the team, right? We know every soul is beautiful and divine and, Christed and angelic and, pure and beautiful, right? On the other side, there's just the character, the script they gave themselves in this lifetime. It might look, like a crazy distortion. And, but they're just playing out the heads of the snakes. The energy's culminating in them, and they're bringing it all to the surface. So, yeah, we have to just thank them. Allow these codes to do that within you. Whew, okay. Lots of shifting going on there. Just bring yourself back into your 0 point. Thank your teams and your guides and angels and your spirit and your God consciousness and Mother Earth and Source for giving you a front row seat to your ascension journey. And just send love to your brothers and sisters that are also on their own and trust in their divine timing. And okay, all right, that's it. Thank you so much. Yeah, that energy just ended there for me. So thank you for joining me. And every time we come together and we chat and a little bit more about what's going on and how we can, again, wake up within ourselves, more light within ourselves, more self-reflections, right? The more the more we become aware of what it is we're creating and ask the question of what timeline, if this was real, if this decision or belief that I have is true, what timeline is it? And how is it helping everyone else, or is it just is this another way my ego is saying you're doing the right thing, right? And if it is, and if you're, because some of us need that some of us are just still working through that validation piece, right? That um, that kind of thing. Am I doing the right thing, right? And here I am on a very small YouTube channel right now. Keep saying it may or may not blow up. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm not here for that reason, though. I have to let go of the piece that wants to be validated. So I can't join. I'm not going to join the consensus of the lightworker community that says there's there's a lot of people that aren't going to make it right on this ascension timeline, because they've made it on other timelines. There's many timelines, right? And there's an aspect of them, when I get to my ascended timeline, of course they're all there, right? That sort of thing. I'm not going to decide from my personality. And I love my personality, and I see why you'd want to choose that. And it's maybe it's your safety mechanism, maybe it's the good job, Deborah, maybe it's the tired of being gaslit and told she's crazy in other lifetimes, or burned at the stake, and there's that part of me that goes, this is the lifetime I make it, and that's okay. Hey, I'm championing that version of me in this lifetime, right? Good. Okay. More magic, more unlimited, more empowerment, more enlightenment. I'm good with that. But I just don't do it at the expense of anyone else, right? That's the thing. I'm just gonna hold that beautiful divine space for them with me. So yeah. Love you. Take care.